All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Conspiracy or Just a Coincidence. So today I have the counterpart of the Occult Rejects, the famous Lux. Lux, thanks for being on the show, dude, and welcome.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on. And it's kind of funny. This is the first interview that I've done outside of the Occult Rejects.
Wow, dude. Well, I'm honored that you would grace me with your presence, dude.
Oh, it couldn't be better. Seriously, there are a lot of different podcasts out there, and some of them have really great information. And I count yours as
Ah,
one of those. You really kill it, and
dude, too nice.
you're
You're all
you're a treasure to the podcast
Oh,
community.
dude, you're gonna make me blush. No more, no more. Well, so for any we see these names of these groups all the time, like over and over again. And so, why don't you tell everybody that doesn't know, I guess, about your background, what you were in, and all that kind of stuff?
Sure. So I'm a former member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. There are a bunch of different groups that all kind of claim that name. I won't go too deep into the exact lineage of the one that I was in, just simply for identity purposes. But I did a lot of research before I decided to join a specific secret society and chose the Golden
Really,
Dawn. Yeah.
that's interesting. Well, continue. I don't want to interrupt. I already got a question, but continue.
No,
Continue.
go ahead. Go
I was
ahead.
just saying, what kind of research?
Well, when you look at the Golden Dawn, um, like I said, there's a bunch of different groups that all use the same name. But I wanted to kind of go back as far as I could to figure out who was the most legitimate. And that's why I chose the one that I did, which tends to take a lot of, I don't know, I would say lineage from sort of the same order that Crowley was in.
Hmm.
So that's how I narrowed down my search.
Okay, interesting.
And not because I was interested in Crowley. I had made that very specific from the jump uh, when I was being interviewed and sort of the initiation process that I did not want anything to do with, Thelemic magic or Crowley, because it was my understanding that Crowley had left the Golden Dawn um, because they had these huge differences, and that's why I decided to pick that certain order, because I felt like they were going to be further away from Thelemic magic or anything to do with Crowley.
Ah, wow. So what is what is thelemic magic? That's what Crowley is known for, right?
Definitely. And he's an interesting figure. It's like it's almost a polarizing figure.
Yeah.
It's like when you hear magic, you immediately associate it with Crowley.
Yeah.
But the Golden Dawn, yeah, it was you know, all centered around ritual magic or ceremonial magic. And that's really why I decided to go with this order, because I wanted to join an order that had structure, because I was looking at all these different other orders and it seemed as though either it was you sending them money and then they would send you sort of like this like things in the mail just so that you could study and look over. And I wanted something much deeper than that. I wanted to find an order that I could get into that would really be something, I would say, more collegiate, if that
Okay.
makes sense, or something
Right.
that was more structured.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So what kind of I guess this is like a silly question, but how do you guys study, say, what is like step one of coming into these type of groups?
I would say each one is slightly different depending
Okay.
again on which order it is that you decide to join. The Golden Dawn, at least, it was about a year vetting process of where they really
Wow.
tried to find everything that they could about me. I had to share. I mean, I know it sounds goofy, but you would even have to include your deepest, darkest secret, things that you had never told anyone else on
Wow.
your initial papers that you have to send in to them. And then there were even like these weird circumstances where I swore, and I'm not sure if it's totally true, but even in that first year of initiatory process, I swore that it would seem like there were these weird circumstances where people would kind of like pop up in my life and kind of ask certain questions. And I always wondered if maybe that was part of the vetting process. I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's interesting.
Dude, though that sounds like, I mean, a lot of like, I'm not calling it a cult, but a lot of cults, they have that similar, like your deepest, or and they use it as a, I guess it makes you probably feel more connected, and also the reverse is like blackmail, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that because I mean, if you haven't even been initiated yet and you're about to share your deepest, darkest secrets,
Right. Dude.
that's a bit much to ask off of the jump, you know?
So you do this so it took you a year to get in, about,
Yeah,
give or
roughly
take.
about that, yeah.
So you pass all their tests or whatever, and already most people can't stick with anything a year. So I imagine, like, at first when you hear these groups, you think like outcasts, kind of. I'm not trying to say that be
Oh,
like,
no. That's
but
why we call ourselves the rejects, so
but the fact that you stuck with it a year, I mean, you clearly had a lot of drive to do this. So you get it right. I mean, obviously,
I did, for sure.
yeah. So you get in, and now you've made it past the year. So what's the net, like, what do you guys start, like, you've been reading this whole time about the Golden Dawn, or you're reading about rituals, or what are you studying?
Sure, so, just a bit of a backstory to the whole thing of why I even decided to join was
Yeah.
because I had seen, and this was in the early 2000s. I had seen so many crazy things that I was considering conspiracy, right? I had seen world events from politics to all this other stuff. And based on that research that I had done, I said, whoa, magic is definitely influencing society. It's influencing everyone. And I thought to myself, well, maybe if I really get into this magic stuff, that I can understand occult principles that
Mm.
these people do, that they know, and that's how they're able to control certain situations in society. Either I can keep myself away from that because I understand the process, or I can help to protect myself from it.
Hmm.
So that's the whole motivation of
Yeah.
really why I even got in, because I just wanted to protect myself from it. But also, I saw, and this might sound cheesy, but I had seen so many people affected in the world by the occult and magic that I felt as though the reason, like one of the number one reasons why I would want to join one of these societies, which I had vetted, so to make sure that they were a good group, that because if they were using light magic or good magic, that maybe I could use it to help other people.
No, that's a noble goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because I had tried so hard to make sure that whatever group I was going into wasn't involved in this black or gray magic. But during that time period of when I first applied to the actual initiation, there were a bunch of different things that I had to do, such as like journaling. pr- There was a practice where you would sit down at the end of every day and you would take a journal and you would write down as much as you could about every event of your day. And this
Okay.
was for like memory retention, but also to help you to be aware of how conscious you were of your own mind during your entire day. And there were a bunch of different rituals that I was told to do, and that was all before even initiation.
What,
So
like, what little, besides the journey, do you like any other like specific type of rituals?
Yeah, so the number one, I would say the number one ritual for any starter magician would be the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. And that's a ritual that's done with certain movements. And you can do it 2 times a day, usually at the sunrise or sunset.
Okay.
And it is about banishing planetary energies or outside forces that can influence sort of like what you do through the day. So,
Yeah.
because, for magic, or especially in the Golden Dawn, astrology affects a lot of people. And to block those energies from affecting you, that's what that ritual is more or less
Wow.
supposed to do.
That's crazy, dude. So you would wake up, I'm not saying every morning, but most mornings and at dusk or sunset, you would do what, and they, at this point, were you like just communicating through like writing, or were you going like you had maybe like a mentor, for a lack of a better term?
I didn't at that time. That was just all sort of my own thing. And then, but
Okay.
I would have to show before my actual initiation into the Golden Dawn this whole
Ah,
journal to make sure that I had actually said what I was doing. But it's like they take it from the perspective that, well, like, have you ever woken up and felt kind of weird on one day, and you're like, man, why do I feel so weird today? Why do I feel so down or
mhm,
depressed? Or,
right.
well, other days I feel so great, and it seems to come in these different patterns. Well, the whole purpose of that ritual is to nullify all of those outside influences.
Mm,
So,
interesting, dude. Wow. So, and then, so continue with what, I don't know, I'm interrupted somewhere. Journaling, then that, and then,
yes.
yes.
So, it's definitely not cheap to get into these orders. Well, at least into the Golden Dawn, I can say. There was a lot of money that was spent because you have to buy robes, you have to buy a bunch
Way.
of different regalia and stuff. This is before you even get in. And if you don't have the money, sometimes they may help you slightly, but their philosophy is more or less, if you don't have the money, then go and find it.
Right. Dude,
And
well, continue.
it at that time, for me, I was like, yeah, they're totally right. I'm I was like, I'm not doing a good enough job of getting enough money to buy these, no joke, like $300 robes.
Jeez.
And that's just one
Where do
part of the
you
robe.
where do you get that? Is there a robe store on the internet, or Amazon? You type in robe. Where do you get a expensive? I'm sure it's like a silk or something, like natural material robe.
Yeah, I had to go to Diagon Alley
Yeah.
and
Nice. If I was a comedian, we could have made a few good jokes. That was the best one there. Nice. That was good. That was good.
oh, but there is a couple websites, and
Okay.
even looking back in retrospect, I should have seen how obvious it was that multiple orders are all connected. Because when I went on this website, which the Golden Dawn pointed me to,
Mhm.
there were other orders included in the website. But
Wow.
it was a very specific website that they wanted me to buy the robes from, because they had to be the right length, they had to be the right, uh, color, shape, and all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
So
Yeah. Wow, dude, that is wild. And so you get your robe, you get, you have your, like, I guess like an admittance test type of thing to make sure, right? That's how I would assume
yeah.
how you officially get in.
hmm So there was like I said, a giant questionnaire that they would always ask you about during that first year of trying to get in. And I mean, they would ask you things from like, who is one of your biggest role models? Why? And they would want you to write an essay on why that person is your biggest role model. And then, like I said, we would have to get all of these different types of regalia or clothing in order to even be initiated. And it was very specific, even down to socks, things like that. You would never think that would be relevant, but they took it very seriously.
Damn, dude, that's crazy. And then, like, so what type of people are in your like group with you? Like, I would imagine again, like, I think clearly if you need this kind of money, it's not like kids, it's people that take this very seriously. So, is there all walks of life that are members of of these kind of type of groups?
So I guess we'll start at initiation.
Yeah,
So
perfect.
I get to initiation, and I was told before that would even happen, that I had to meet them at a random location that I wouldn't know about until around maybe an hour, 2 hours before.
Okay.
And at the time, I lived out of state. And so it was my girlfriend and myself at the time. We decided that we were going to go up together because she was kind of worried about the fact that I was going to meet these people I didn't know. I knew nothing about them. Who knows what can happen, right?
Right. Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Yeah.
So we go, and we had gotten a hotel room and booked in, and then went to this restaurant. And my girlfriend at the time, refused to let me do this by myself. So we go to the restaurant, and I don't see anybody there. And I'm thinking, this is strange. I'm texting people. I don't
Yeah.
hear anything back because they had given me a number. And I'm looking around the restaurant. I didn't see anybody. And so I stepped outside for a second. I get a phone call, and they told me that they were already inside, and that they were at like the back end of the restaurant, and they had already seen me get there, and just to come back and sit down and talk to them. So I walk back in and I sit down, and there were three people, and one of them, well, two of them, but one of them was way higher up than the others.
Okay.
And I had to sit down and talk to them. And I remember from that first interaction, something was really weird because I had always thought, especially when you look at the Golden Dawn, they always treat themselves as this very professional. It's this school for magic. It's very strict. There's no funny business. And I
Mhm.
remember sitting down, and one of the guys told me, and he looked right at my girlfriend at the time and said, "Don't worry, this isn't the initiation where we do him in the you know what."
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah.
Well, that would scare off any significant other in the world right
and
off
sh-
the bat.
and he of course made it in this very joking manner. And
Okay.
so
Yeah.
you're nervous, you're scared, whatever, and
Yes.
you're just like, ha ha ha, that's funny, because you hear that a lot about secret societies, that
Right.
might be something that they do. And I just will never forget that. It made me feel so unsettled, but I continued to go through with it.
Right. Right.
So-
Well, you like made it this far already. It's kind of like getting hazed in a fraternity type of, you already made it this
exactly.
far. Yeah.
So we end up wrapping up eating, and she was going to follow me. My girlfriend was going to follow me to the location for initiation, and they told her that she could not.
Okay.
And I was blindfolded and put into the back of their car, and taken off to the place where I was going to get initiated. So I know that a lot of that might sound fantastical or wild,
Yeah.
but it was traumatic.
I
And
yeah.
especially thinking back on it now, even getting back after that day of initiation, I was pretty traumatized. But yeah, so we get to the building where the initiation is happening. And the first thing I'm told to do is to go and pick a rose from the rose garden that was in front of the lodge, I guess you could say. So I pick it, and at the time, I was really sick. This was before, of course, before
Yes.
coronavirus and all that.
Yeah. When
I
people still
felt
could get regular sick. Yes.
and I felt terrible. And I'm putting on these robes. They're telling me, don't have anything else underneath of your robes. You're just going to stay here blindfolded in one part of the lodge, and we're going to come and get you. I can hear all of the things that are happening on the lower level underneath of me at the bottom part of the lodge, and they're doing these different rituals for initiation. So I'm blindfolded. I'm led down to the lower level. Uh, there's a bunch of different things that they make you swear to, or they have you repeat all of these different sayings. Then there's this long process of you doing this initiation ritual and partaking of, I would say they would call it a communion. And then after that, you're officially initiated, and that's how that day ended. So,
wow. And then they just drove you back to the wherever.
well, they wouldn't let me have my girlfriend at the time pick me up.
Okay. Kind of,
They
I guess
did,
that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, they didn't want her to know the location, so they drove me back. So that's how that went. And then when I got back to uh, where the hotel, I mean, my ex-girlfriend, she was in a mess. She was like, I haven't heard from you because they told me don't contact her while you're here. Stop asking about locations of where to, she can pick you
Yeah.
up and all that kind
Right.
of stuff. So,
Dude, that's like a terrifying, you have no idea who these people are. Already they're, I don't want to say unsavory, but different to say the least. I mean,
right.
that anyone would be terrified of that.
And I still went through with it.
Well,
It's like,
dude, I think it's like you say that, but like, people like this is like a common thing with groups. Like I just said, like the fraternity thing, like people do, and especially you start off harmless and then you just keep getting further and it's like I don't know if it's like human nature or what it is, but we're not like good at that. Looking hindsight, it's easy, but at the time, it's not so easy.
well, and especially because I had made it so clear that I did not want anything to do with black magic. I didn't want anything to do with uh, thelemic magic, which is more associated with the OTO,
Mhm.
um, which is the order that my co-host for the occult rejects is. He was formerly in the OTO, and they really center more around like thelemic magic and stuff. And I just didn't want anything to do with it because it was with Crowley. So I felt as though by me putting that out there
Mhm.
so far in advance before even initiation, and they reassured me so much, well, no, that's not something you're going to get into. That there was this thing where I believed that even though this weird stuff was happening for initiation, that they were telling me the truth, or that I had some type of reassurance because they had told me that I wouldn't get into that type of magic or
Right.
occult practices I disagreed with. So
Yeah. So you're initiated. And how many years were you involved with the Golden Dawn?
I won't go into it too much as far as like the time
Yeah.
length, because it tends to, especially with these specific groups, it tends to narrow things down.
Oh yeah. Ballpark it.
Yeah,
Ballpark it.
I would say at least 5 years.
Okay. So you were in it for a while. You knew
Yeah.
these people very well. What are like so do you rise the ranks through I got like a two part. So how do you like rise the ranks? And then also like can you give examples of like because I've read so much about Parsons and stuff and like and kind of like how you said earlier, collegiate scholar like I mean even that
Right.
my one friend who I was talking to before the show, Jeremy, I mean he's super smart guy, so well read. Like this stuff is out like a science, like these rituals, correct? So
Definitely.
yeah, so two parts. So how do you rise the ranks and can you like what examples of like a I guess like a ritual or spell or whatever you want to call it?
Mhm. So the Golden Dawn, they pride themselves on being one of the oldest orders, or the one that has the most lineage or like background that proves their legitimacy.
Mhm.
And so I was pretty confident in that, and so I really started to do a lot of these rituals that they were telling me about, and it's very specific on movement, the vibration of your voice when you do these rituals,
Hmm.
certain what they call God names, which in retrospect, I now have sort of, after getting out, I've deciphered a lot of what that ritual was and definitely see discrepancies I don't agree with, because a lot of the names that they're telling you to vibrate are certain gods that I don't agree with now, at all.
Damn.
And even at the time, I was pretty nervous about it. But you're essentially moving around in a clockwise fashion, and you're drawing a pentagram in the air with your hand. And so you start at your left hip, and you go up to the top of your head, then down to the bottom right side of your hip, then
Damn.
back up to the left side of your shoulder, to the right shoulder, and then back down to the left hip. And those each one of the times that you draw this pentagram in the air, you visualize it in your mind's eye. You're putting it into your space. And after a while of doing it for so long, I could actually see, um, what I was drawing with my hand in the air fabricate. I know that sounds wacky, but, and maybe that was in my mind's eye or whatever, but I don't think it was. And
You mean
then
like you could see it in your head when you say your mind's eye?
I could see it physically.
Damn, dude, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I remember even thinking when I first started to see it manifest physically, I was like, wait, this has got to be just something I'm making up.
Right.
Um,
Yes. Or like, am I going insane? That's what I would think
right,
of. Yeah.
right. And they would even warn me, they would say, look, when you do these rituals for long enough, you're going to start to see these things actually happen.
Wow.
And you would do four separate corners for each one of the, cardinal directions. And you would connect each one of those pentagrams with a, sort of like a shining, bright, brilliant blue cord that connected all of them, so that you would eventually create a barrier around yourself. And then what you would do is, once you've created that barrier, you would invoke archangels. So, you know, Michael, Gabriel, archangels like that. And you would
Okay.
have them on sort of like the perimeter of your ritual, either looking in or looking out to protect you, or looking in to give wisdom. And then you would, of course, make the sign of the cross, which is, the same sign as the Christian cross.
Okay.
And then you would, do sort of like an ending prayer, and that was it.
Wow, dude. What's the because as you can see, I'm like putting pictures up. I keep
Mhm.
seeing like the Christian cross. Why is it like why do you know why they associate? Is it just a powerful symbol?
Well, so for the Golden Dawn, of course, why they call themselves the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn is because it has a lot of association with Christianity, or the Christ figure. Uh, but that being because they relate the Golden Dawn, Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, with Hermes, which was a, second century figure. He was an Egyptian priest. and a magician. He was also called the, thrice great Hermes. He wrote like 42 books. They were all about esoteric wisdom and literature, including things I'm sure people have heard about, like the golden tablets and stuff like that.
Yes, of like Toth or Thoth or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Am I
And
getting that wrong?
well, like roughly, I definitely you're not far off. But like he was said to be this thrice great figure, which is very similar to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost that we see in Christianity. So that's why you see a lot of that symbolism in the Golden Dawn. You see a lot of that same cross symbolism in Rosicrucianism, other things. So
Ah,
yeah, which
wow.
really boils down to what they're trying to say is the mind, the heart, and action is what these three, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, are representing in the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn.
So, like, you guys have like meetings? I'm guessing like periodically that you would, or like, in, is that like a monthly meeting, or what is that's how you guys would stay in contact with each other?
Yeah, it was very strict in the sense that there were always I mean, I had a mentor and I had to talk to him almost daily, and it was reporting what you have, diaried today, what rituals have you done today, um, what's your next step, like how do you want to go from here, do you want to go up another rank, do you want to go up another grade, and uh, it was pretty rigorous. I would akin it something to being at least in a like an associate's degree in college.
Hmm. It
That
almost reminds me, dude, of like AA or NA. Like you have a sponsor, and how you just said steps. It's like a similar. You check in with them all the time.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, part of that is a lot about control, in my opinion, because they want to
Mm.
see what you're researching. Because honestly, that's one of the reasons why I left at the end of it. We don't have to jump that far ahead, but that's some of the stuff that I was finding when I was researching Golden Dawn material that was given to me from them. I started to sort of make my own connections to other stuff that I was researching, and there was like this weird gatekeeping thing where they didn't want me to ask certain questions about certain material.
Hmm.
And to me, I thought, well, that obviously doesn't apply
Yeah.
if you're in if
You're
if
right.
you're in, like, let's say you're in college, right? And you're like, wow, I'm researching this book, and I ask my professor about it, and he says, well, yeah, don't research that.
Right. Right.
So immediately I felt as though something was fishy because of the fact that there was this gatekeeping of information where it was you could only talk about that if you got to a certain level.
Ah, okay. And that almost encourages you to look. Now you ask more, why can't I look into this type of human behavior? Don't think of an elephant, you're going to think of an elephant.
Exactly. And see, the type of person that I am, like the moment that they said that to me, don't research this more, I immediately researched it more.
And when you say like research, like on these pictures we have up, they're all like Golden Dawn books. Is that what the research is? That's what they encourage, is like whatever these, I'm going to call them textbooks, but these textbooks they have, they're encouraging you to read through these and give your thoughts.
Right. So each grade that you have in the Golden Dawn, like I said, it's very college like. You have this giant curriculum that you have to digest, send back to them, and they need to see proof of all the stuff that you've done. Well, I happen to be researching because I'm kind of always been into physics. I just find physics really fascinating. I really like space and you know astrology, things like that.
Mhm.
It's just something I really enjoy to research because I I love it. Well, I was looking into uh, it's something called M theory. So it's basically like the most modern idea or hypothesis as the way that modern astrophysics believe that certain dimensions are connected. And I began to see that there were these weird connections to that and the Kabbalah. And if you stop scrolling right there, you'll see that that is a version of it right there. So if you look at that shape, that's what the Golden Dawn views as the Kabbalah. This is how you move up and out of certain dimensions. And just because of the
Wow.
shapes, right? Because of the shapes that are on there, and all their different colors and the way they're aligned, I just happened to be looking at this physics book and was finding that if you look at M theory, which has nothing to do with the occult, this is just science,
Yeah.
that they believe the dimensions are connected in certain ways, and you could literally superimpose the image that these guys, like these astrophysicists, were describing the way the dimensions connect to the Kabbalah of the Golden Dawn. And all I did was reach out to the person who was above me. I said, "Whoa, finding like a lot of weird connections. Like, is the Kabbalah? Is it the same thing as this? Are they talking about how certain dimensions connect or whatever?"
Uh,
And they pretty much told me, "Shut up, don't ask about it, and go back to your normal studies." So
dude, the whole dimension thing, was it like, do they believe that like kind of like a multiverse theory, I'm guessing, right? That like
yeah,
you can cross it's like, but and when you say like travel to these other dimensions, do they think, or are they able to see other, like what's in these other ones? I don't know how I'm asking this right.
I definitely get what you're saying. So at least from the Golden Dawn's perspective, a lot of other occult groups that they take this model, this is pretty much the heart of occultism for high magic or stuff that really digs deep into occultism, not things like doing spells with certain like herbs and crystals, and I
Yeah.
have nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine. People can do that. That's totally cool. I'm not criticizing that at all. But when it comes to the Golden Dawn, they take this version, the Tree of Life, which was passed down from the Hebrews, to show how each dimension or version of dimensions is connected. And in the Golden Dawn, they explain that if you were to make yourself, I wouldn't say pure, but aligned, that you
Uh-huh.
could more or less astral travel between certain dimensions in on the tree.
Dude, and also about the 11 I don't know where, I don't know if it was like a Rogan that I was listening to a long time ago or something. And there was a guy on there who was a physicist who said they've confirmed that there's 11 dimensions that exists or something like that. And then he also said, and it's interesting because Kabbalah or Judaism also was saying the same thing thousands of years ago, or
Yeah,
long time
you're
ago.
spot on. And so those were the same questions that I was asking, because I was like,
Ah,
well, when you look at this modern, astrophysics, this looks a lot like the Tree of Life. Um, and each one of those, so like when you look at modern astrophysics, they kind of have this weird disagreement with things called M theory, string theory, and where they sort of argue about how many dimensions there could be. But the most common one that they all agree on is that there are at least 10 to 11 different dimensions. Well, if you look at the tree of life, right,
Yeah.
you have 10 separate spheres, and then there's one that's invisible in the center. They call that the Doth sphere in the occult. So that would, be the 11th sphere. So yeah, I was asking about all this stuff and just told not to pay attention to it, and I did not like, because I felt like, I, I don't need to be told everything, but at least help me out here. I'm trying to make some connections, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's super interesting. Like that would be, I would need to know that's like super interesting. So why, that's why I would ask, do you have an idea why? Is it just because they wanted, I remember like that story of like Jack Parsons, how he wasn't ready for like, or Crowley or ever didn't think he was ready for the next steps, and he was doing things that he thought he couldn't handle. Do you think that's their excuse of why they didn't want you to look into this stuff more, or what do you think their reason is?
I'm not totally sure, but one thing I do know is that they were really interested in things like my birth date. They wanted to know down to the minute that I was born. Um, and they kind of put people in these different categories because the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn at least believes that people who are born in certain star signs or something like that, um, different astrological signs, have certain dispositions.
Okay.
And they think that it corresponds to one of those spheres on the tree. And I think also some of it is that they want to gatekeep the information so that n- even someone who's like, stupid as me who
Oh, you're
could
not
make that
stupid, but yes.
connection,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, who can
Right.
make that connection wouldn't kind of figure out the whole total picture. Because I think that if you really were to break it down and figure out what that really means, that it could make a lot of changes, especially not only in oneself but in the world around us. Because as long as these societies, as long as these groups keep this information secret, well, they're the only ones with that real info.
Yeah.
So to me, it felt like that was the goal.
Well, do I also like I don't know anything. I'm like I know what sign I am and stuff like that, but I never realized how truly important like the astrology was to these like our, the founding fathers and all these and Masons, which I'm sure there's like lots of crossover, but like they everything in the DC, it was like the exact minute they laid the westward facing cornerstone of the White House or whatever it may be, it was all timed like perfectly in the exact location to match these stars in the sky. I mean, they really do put all of this emphasis on the astrological layout.
Oh, absolutely. And the reason why they do that is because at certain hours, certain days, certain planets or energies are more active. And so you can, through rituals, bring that energy down into your reality or your, experience on Earth.
Mm,
So if you, like, let's say, the third sphere on the Tree of Life is called Bana. And it's typically like a female energy. And when pushed to the extreme, it enacts chaos. It's associated with Saturn, and it can really, if you channel that energy into yourself or into your reality, it can cause a lot of chaos.
mm,
And this is sort of like the stuff that we were researching lately for the occult rejects.
right.
It seems as though that they are trying to channel that specific energy down into our reality. Which, and even if you don't believe in the tree of life, that's fine. But when you're channeling that type of energy of negativity, of chaos, it's going to manifest. It's going to happen. So that's the reason
Well,
why they use that type of that energy, because it's
right.
very effective at keeping people divided.
Well, do you think like so what's like your your groups, what's the goal of like is there a displayed goal of like these lodges or the Golden Dawn like, you know, or do they just kind of like a generic we're trying to make the world a better place type of slogan?
Oh, they definitely try and make it that way. But the reason why I ended up leaving was because so I'm in this group for years. And again, that kind of happened early on where I was trying to figure out the M theory stuff
Mhm.
and how it corresponds to the tree of life. And I would notice that over time I would look at my curriculum and I would see these weird edits. Imagine if you had like a college, a college book on some type of subject that you were studying, but at the top of it, you would see that it was edited so that it no longer said the actual, I guess, publisher of the book.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this is weird. Like, why do they have
Yeah.
this part edited? And I would notice that they would leave some of the parts out. They didn't obviously edit everything. And I would see other names of other secret societies in my curriculum. And I was like, whoa, okay, this is weirding me out. So I ended up talking to them and I said, I'm seeing groups that have nothing to do with the Golden Dawn in our curriculum. Can someone please explain this to me?
Yeah.
And they said, well, don't worry about it. It's above your pay grade, more or less.
Yeah.
And you'll figure it out when you get there. And so they told me basically that there is a inner order to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And this inner order works with theoretical magic. And then within that order is another inner order, which is almost by invite only. And
Huh.
that inner order connects to other secret societies, sort of creating a web of it's like a challenge. So you go through this process of the Golden Dawn. Well, then you go to the inner order, but then there's an inner order beyond that. And so it's a constant test of seeing who they will allow to get into that inner order.
That's
Um,
crazy. Like the connect so this like double no like joke, but like a double secret order
yeah,
is like this link that's linking all of these similar groups.
yeah, and we would even have times, and this was something I immediately thought was very strange, but thought it was routine after a while, was that we would go to Masonic lodges because at that point I thought to myself, wait a minute, why am I going to? I'm not a Mason. Why am I
Yeah.
going to Masonic lodges and doing rituals there? Because you hear a lot of Masons that say, oh, well, the Masons don't have anything to do with magic. It's just, it's something different.
Mhm.
But in reality, we would go there after hours from permission from the, high ranking Masons. And we would do these rituals in their lodges. So even from that aspect, if you want to say, well, the Masons and the Golden Dawn are disconnected, then why would you allow us to go and do these different rituals inside of the lodge after the other Masons are gone? Because a lot of the other Masons who are low level, they don't think that any of the
Mm.
magic rituals and stuff is going to be involved in masonry. It's just at a higher level. And so they
Makes
were
sense.
more or less like letting us use their space to do these rituals.
And you would do them together, like the high
Oh, yeah.
ranking Masons and you guys.
No, I won't say that. No, it was just the Golden Dawn there using their space.
Okay. All
But
right.
it was weird to me though because there were other places that we could have done that.
Yeah.
Know why we had to do it in a Masonic lodge, and especially without a lot of other people who were Masons in that lodge even knowing about it.
Yeah,
So
that well, so why do you what do you think the point was to go to do it there then? If like they yeah.
I don't know. I maybe because I think that when you do certain rituals over and over and over again, or there's certain practices that have been done in a certain space over and over again, it might create some type of charge or some, I
Mm,
don't know, ability for rituals to become more effective.
mm. And like these group ones, what was the goal of these group like, because you're obviously doing the specific thing with specific movements and thoughts and idea energies or whatever. Like say like just on a random meeting on a Tuesday that you all get together to do a group. Is there like a goal that's stated in these group rituals?
Yeah, there would be certain meetings that you would go to try and just sort of talk and interchange different ideas. And then there were other meetings where it was about uh, like astral projection or
Mm.
crossing the abyss, which they claimed that you could, move along certain timelines and find information from the
What?
past. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, dude, you're a time traveler.
Yeah, and it's really wild to me because when I was doing it, I definitely saw some weird things, and years later, of course, after we started the new podcast, I ended up finding this document from the CIA that was
Okay.
talking about the Gateway Project, which was a 10-year project that the CIA had done along with this sort of like occultist guy, where they were figuring out how you could use certain tones and vibrations to access different places and times in the
Uh-huh.
past. And they spent millions of dollars on that. And
Yeah.
it's crazy to me to see that these entities were researching occult principles, um, and sort of just like calling them something else. So it felt to me, at least, that there was way more legitimacy for what I had been doing before, because
No, yeah.
I'm doing all these types of astral projections or meditations, and I always kind of thought to myself, well, maybe I'm making a lot of this up in my head or something.
Right.
And then years later, find out that they were really researching this, um, on a high
Well,
level to figure out how it works.
I mean, I remember reading somewhere like how they had a guy that was astral projecting or no remote viewing, and they spent all this money on remote viewing, and like they would give him like just coordinates, and like he like could tell you exactly where it was, and like there one time was like two guys standing by a water fountain, and he was able to like say where they were, and then they even like gave him coordinates on Mars, and I don't know,
Exactly.
just crazy stuff that it was just sounded like fake, it sounded totally made up.
Exactly. Right. And if you look at that document too, it's very bizarre because they break down how they, in their own words, again, this is like the CIA and government organizations, they say, oh, well, we tell the public one thing about physics and the way that things operate, but in reality, it's much different. And they continue to reference all of these occult books and literature and doctrine, and then say, oh, well, yeah, it's really this way. We just tell the public one thing,
Uh-huh.
and this is how we're able to do a bunch of other crazy stuff with, astral projection or out of body experiences.
What was the biggest like because how you said when you first started you were able to see the pentagram that you were drawing. What was like is there another one like the biggest thing that like blew your that like almost maybe scared you or like you were like shit this actually like I'm getting a response or whatever you want to like a moment or an event?
Sure. Um, And when I talk about these things, it's not necessarily about. I will never make the claim that what I did or what I experienced was good. I am absolutely willing to admit that during those experiences and what I saw was not positive. And, it's a lot of misconception about, I don't know, that people think that the occult is either good or bad. I I tend to think of the occult as like an underlying system, the same way that electricity is. You can
Okay.
use electricity to shock someone. You can use electricity to help light a light bulb. And those two effects of electricity have two very different, you know, outcomes.
Right.
So in my opinion, I think that the occult is a misunderstood or maybe lost system as to the way that things operate, especially when it comes to the human psyche, because 99% of the occult does not have anything to do with you, holding a wand or anything. It's more about the deep understanding of the human psyche, and how people operate. What are their what are the good things about themselves? What are the bad things about themselves?
Damn. Dude, that
So,
makes so much that's like I'm always searching what's the tie between the occult and the intelligence apparatus. And from what like you just said, that seems like that's what one of the main connections is.
absolutely. And they have a very deep understanding about the human psyche and how to manipulate people just because of occult principles, of these things that, occultists have studied for thousands of years. And
Mhm.
they, uh, they have figured out a way to hack the system. That's
Mm.
really what occultism, I would say, totally is. And then, meanwhile, keeping it away from the majority of the public.
Yeah. Right. And that so you have like a cheat code. You're able to know and do things that regular Joe Schmo wouldn't be able to or have
Yeah,
access to.
yeah.
Then
You
I
did
oh, go ahead.
you did have a question that I forgot what the first part of the last question was that you had asked.
God, like from 20 minutes ago? That one?
No, no, no. It was like
Uh,
it was right before I got onto that. It was
the biggest experience.
oh yes, biggest experience. So
Oh, good. Yes. Nice.
so I would do these different rituals, and like I had told you, I would see these pentagrams that I was drawing in the air. I could see them with my physical eyes. It wasn't
Yes.
me keeping them closed or anything. And one big warning that the Golden Dawn always told you is that you will see things after you start to do these rituals over a long time, that you will start to see things in your normal life that may not be absolutely real to everyone else, but you're going to see them. And this is a very, very common theme that you look into any type of ritualistic magic or occultism. You'll see all of these types of groups agree that after you do these rituals, that you'll begin to see things that other people can't. And I would remember being in a room and seeing an object or a animal or a shape that other people couldn't see. And that weirded me out so bad.
Yeah.
Because I it made me feel like it was hard to decipher, like, what
If
does
you're
this
seeing it.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, what does
Right.
this mean? What is and I mean, that happened multiple times. And yeah, that was something that definitely made me uncomfortable. And I just I didn't want to be existing in this place where I felt that other people couldn't see things that I that I was
Yeah.
seeing. It's just
Right.
so.
Well, you'll think, am I again, like, am I going crazy or what? It's just fascinating, dude. That something like I always like say this in my show, but that, like people, like you and all other people that were in, like, people wouldn't do this stuff if they didn't get like an immediate like response, like a reciprocated for their efforts. Because you think like praying, you don't get like a okay sign or a thumbs up or whatever. So that's I think that, and especially in this modern age of like instant gratification, that pushes people away. But would you agree that like clearly something, you get a sign that something or is responding by doing these rituals and these meditations?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would see in some cases I would see immediate results.
Mm,
Um and they were prolific, they were intense, and they were very real in the physical form. I remember that I would kind of mess around with certain rituals, and I would even think about, okay, like let me take this ritual and ask for the most bizarre, wild thing. And I did a ritual that was asking to find a $5 bill because I thought that was like really specific. And I did this ritual, and after I finished, I closed out the ritual. I walked out to my car to go to work, and I looked down under the front driver's side of my car underneath the
mm.
tire, and there was a $5 bill that was lodged underneath it.
That is
And
crazy, dude.
yeah, I mean, I stood there for like 2 minutes.
Yeah, right. Staring like, what the hell?
Yeah, and a lot of those results are way more immediate than people think. I do think there's some type of response to rituals. Uh, Certain ones are short term, some are much longer term. So
Dude. And then I guess my last question. So what was the final, like the camel that broke the straw's back? What, because like what, yeah, what was that?
I would say the thing that really made me just stop was again after I'd been researching the physics stuff and then being told not to look into it, then finding out that there were inner orders that connected to other inner orders. But
Mm,
the thing that really broke it for me was that I had said, based on this, things that have happened, that I needed to take a break. Like I just was feeling really uneasy because I felt like I was being misled. And that's the exact opposite of why I got into it into the first place. I'd also noticed that there's this weird thing that happens with occultism that you feel as though like you and I would even see with other members is that there was this mystique where you knew something that the general public didn't. And so you felt as though you were really cool and special because you knew these things that other people didn't. And I even like felt it start to take a toll on me because you would see these guys come in who were from higher grades and they would have on these giant rings. I'm talking Super Bowl rings with like, and I got a ring too, and I
yeah.
thought I was cool because of it. And it's like, and then you go higher up in these levels, and these guys have on these giant gold rings, and um, it's like it can become a very egotistical thing that you think that you know more than other people, and that can lead to really bad stuff
Mm,
because it's not ever going to help you to realize yourself and to understand the truth and to share that truth with others. It's about gatekeeping it and keeping it only to yourself because you think for some reason that you're special. But the thing that really made me stop was that I had, because of all the things that have happened before, I had said that I wanted to get out and they had told me that they didn't want me to,
mhm.
and made it pretty hard for me to get out. Being delayment in paperwork for resignations and things, and I kept pushing it. And I said, like, "Look, I'm done. I'm done. And they would say, oh, we'll just take a month or a year hiatus. And I said, I'm totally done. And because of feeling that pressure, they wanted me to stay in so desperately. And I have no idea why that is, but they really tried hard for me to stay in. And because of that, I just decided that it was the last straw because it felt like a
Damn.
cult.
Yeah. It kind of was the opposite of why you got into it.
Yep, exactly.
Dude, this was all, the one guy in the chat asked a question, and I will about Harry Potter, and I'm interested in that too. But you see a lot of like those Harry. You think J.K. Rowling's a Hermetic Order member?
I will say that they do mix a lot of fantasy with reality in that series. I'm not sure how much she knows, but a lot of the principles that are outlined in the series of books and movies, she definitely knows something more than I
You
would
guys
say
haven't.
the normal person.
You guys haven't done a series on Harry Potter, have you?
No, not yet. No.
Damn, dude. Well, you let. I was, grew up on Harry Potter, so I would love that. Would be crazy, but.
Me too.
So where can everyone find you and listen to you guys and all those good things, Lux?
Sure. So, myself and my co-host New York Patriot were two former secret society members that left because of the things we just talked about, and we decided to start our own podcast to tell people about the truth and what they're doing behind the scenes. And we don't have it all figured out. We just try to tell people the information that we know in order to help people out. I have my own podcast that's about to come out, and that's going to be under the Lux Rising podcast.
Nice.
Just
Like the
because
name.
we want to, thanks, buddy. We just want to start or I want to start something new that's just different, covering different subjects. And we have, of course, the Occult Rejects. You can find us at the Occult Rejects on any platform that podcasts are streamed, Spotify, Apple, things like that. And of course, you can always find a New York Patriot on his own stuff. And yeah, we're just trying to get our message out there as much as possible.
No, this was awesome. And go that you guys put. I always respect people that like research. It's so easy to like do current events and things like that, but like you guys do intense work, like super thorough. So definitely check their show out, and I'll put all the links in the show notes. But Lux, thanks for doing this, dude. I'm honored. This was your first one-on-one interview, so thank you, dude. It was awesome. I loved every minute of it. So thanks a lot,
Thank
dude.
you, sir. I really appreciate you having me on.
All right, man. Take care, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good, buddy.
See you guys. See you, everybody. Thanks for listening.
See you.